thing, I call it the freedom framework, and it's a puzzle the way I think we're all unique. There's not one way of doing things for anyone, right? But the four corner pieces of the puzzle are the same, and that's gut health, it's toxic burden and your body's ability to get rid of those toxins. It's your genetics. For sure, genetics play a part in this, right? And the fourth one, and I call it the missing piece of the puzzle, is how you deal with your stress and your past trauma. And that is the one that fits in, that actually affects cortisol release. You know, if you're, like you said earlier, if you're always in a sympathetic arousal state, you're releasing cortisol, which is breaking down your gut wall. You know, it's doing other things too, but you know, when we're talking about that intestinal integrity, if, as long as you're in that place of I'm always a victim, I'm not safe, I'm not good enough, I'm not, you know, all of those self-limiting belief structures that come from trauma, and everybody has had trauma, 100% of us. It's just that we might not have had the capital T trauma that's talked about in the adverse childhood experiences study. The ACEs study actually is the science behind all this, that says, yes, the higher those adverse experiences from childhood, the higher the number, the higher the risk for every single chronic illness that we have in our society today, as well as relationship dysfunction and addiction and the lack of self-care and like all those things, right? Self-neglect. So it becomes really important. And the hurt study that I did was, why did the ACEs study come up with what it came up with? I wanted to know the why, like track it, you know, how does that work? And so I would say, yes, it is. But also, if your genetics show like you're an APOE4, for example, which means that your liver is not going to metabolize alcohol and animal protein and fat very well. And if you continue to eat that, then you're going to have trouble. And so I think that probably most of the people in the Forks Over Knives study were APOE4s. And that's why we have such conflicting studies. That's why I do genetics. I'm like, let's look and see what's the dietary program your DNA is asking for, right? What's your Ayurvedic dosha balance? What's going on? And the trauma piece is the one that actually upregulates all that stuff. And I always think of toxic burden as not just PCBs in the environment, you know, not just EMFs, but also the toxicity that you have in here. I think of resentment as the most toxic chemical that can ever be manufactured on this planet. And it's not being manufactured by corporations and dumped into air, soil, and water. It's being manufactured right here and being dumped into the terrain that our cells are bathing in.
And it's almost